Breaking now at 11, outrage spilling into the streets. Fire set, 2 police officers shot as protesters in Louisville and around the country unleash their anger. Thank you so much for joining us at 11. Good evening. I'm Stephen Holt.
And I'm Natalie Pasquarella. Kentucky's largest city is under curfew at this hour as mostly peaceful demonstrations continue here in New York and elsewhere around the nation. Emotions, though, still running high in the aftermath of the indictment that saw no officers directly charged in Breonna Taylor's death. The former detective charged with firing shots into a neighboring apartment has already been booked and released. But tonight, thousands of people still taking to the streets to protest what they call a miscarriage of justice in this case.
Our team of reporters standing by here in the city, but we're going to start tonight with our team coverage at NBC's Jay Gray live in Louisville, Kentucky tonight, where police just confirmed 2 police officers have been shot there. Jay?
Yeah, Stephen, Natalie, and you can see the National Guard police stationed outside the University of Louisville Hospital right now. The officers inside expected to recover their injuries, not considered life-threatening, and we've just learned they've arrested a suspect in the shooting.
Anger spilling into the streets of Louisville.
I don't even have words. It's just crazy.
At times turning violent, 2 Louisville police officers hit by gunfire as protesters clashed with police and the National Guard.
As they were deploying to investigate what was going on at First and Broadway, shots rang out and 2 of our officers were shot.
After a grand jury's decision that no Louisville police officer will be directly charged in the death of Breonna Taylor.
And every single person who fears police and being murdered by police deserve much better than what we got today.
It's been more than 6 months since police stormed Breonna Taylor's apartment looking for drugs. Her boyfriend, Kenneth Walker, thinking it was a break-in, shot at officers who fired back, killing Taylor. The state's investigation focused on Brett Hankison, Miles Cosgrove, and Jonathan Mattingly, the 3 officers who opened fire during the raid. Only Hankinson, who was fired from the department, was indicted on 3 counts of wanton endangerment for firing into a neighboring apartment.
And our investigation found that Mattingly and Cosgrove were justified in their use of force after having been fired upon by Kenneth Walker.
The Taylor family attorney calls the decision outrageous.
We still have work to do. We still are pushing for justice for Breonna. We still have the FBI investigation.
While this community promises
Breonna Taylor
to continue saying her name.
Yeah, and look, there's a citywide curfew in place right now, but still pockets of protest across the area. Officials say that curfew will continue along with this show of force and a lockdown of the central core of the downtown area for as long as necessary.
All right, Jay, thank you so much for that. Here closer to home, one of the largest protests in the nation happening in New York City. You can hear it there. You can see it. That's where demonstrators have flooded the streets. News 4's Adam Harding continuing our team coverage tonight. Adam, I understand you're marching near the Manhattan Bridge right now.
Yeah, we've been all over the city tonight, and just look for yourselves, Natalie. There are thousands of people right here blocking some of the traffic here as they've been marching now for several hours, and they stretch as far as we can see. Crowds estimated to be in the thousands right now here in Lower Manhattan. We know that this group certainly outraged by what we saw in Kentucky, that no officers will be charged in the shooting death of Breonna Taylor. 1 officer facing charges for shooting into the neighbor's apartment. That has spurred a lot of outrage. That spurred a lot of heartache, a lot of pain all across the city. Parts of this group actually started a couple hours ago marching on 59th and 9th right by the Plaza Hotel. That's where we caught up with some supporters who say today they had to be a part of these demonstrations.
It's not surprising. I wasn't surprised. I would have been surprised if justice were served. We can march and we can sing and we can shout and we can pray, but unless those changes don't happen where they need to happen, and unless the climate of this country does not change, and it's not going anywhere, you're just going to see more Breonna Taylors, unfortunately.
And Natalie and Stefan, we're making our way toward the Williamsburg Bridge right now. It would appear that this group of protesters, again in the thousands, likely now headed toward Brooklyn, where there was another demonstration earlier tonight. It's believed that those demonstrators from Brooklyn came into Lower Manhattan. The group then converged in Lower Manhattan, and now it appears that they'll be making their way back to Brooklyn. I do want to tell you, Natalie, that we've seen a number of NYPD officers tailing this group. We were part of that tail for several hours. So far, things have remained calm and peaceful. But as demonstrators will tell you tonight, it's not about the size of the crowd. It's about their message and their passion. And tonight, Natalie and Stefan, no sign that they're slowing down anytime soon. Back to you.
A lot of passionate voices on the streets of New York and in cities all across the country. Adam Harding there on Delancey Street following this group heading towards the Williamsburg Bridge. I want to take you to live pictures from Chopper 4, not far from, actually this is over the same area. This is now over the bridge as we're watching some of those demonstrators make their way across the Williamsburg Bridge into Brooklyn. Earlier that group had tried to cross the Manhattan Bridge, but I'm not sure if they were turned around or they actually started moving up towards the Willie B. But we're going to follow this crew as well as News 4's Checky Beckford on the ground in Lower Manhattan. Tell us what you're seeing there tonight, Checky.
Well, Stefan, as Adam mentioned, these protesters have been zigzagging across Lower Manhattan. The group that we were following actually started in Brooklyn. They'd made their way back down here on Canal and Bowery, and we thought they were heading back over the Manhattan Bridge back into Brooklyn, but then they took a turn north up the Bowery again. Now, take a look at some video earlier from where this all started at the Barclays Center, as we mentioned, in Brooklyn around 7 this evening. It started, as we mentioned, in front of the Bowery, in front of the Barclays Center. About 1,000 people gathered there to remember Breonna Taylor and denounce what they call a failed system that has allowed the officers who killed her to go unpunished. Then they marched over the Manhattan Bridge. Again, a mainly peaceful demonstration, but things became tense when bicycle protesters blocked the Brooklyn-bound entrance to the bridge. Take a listen. That was some of the police activity as they tried to intervene between protesters and some motorists. One driver nearly coming to blows with those protesters. He demanded to get out of his way. Another driver yelling that her kids had to go to school in the morning. But protesters told us earlier that they want people to take notice. They want people to be inconvenienced over what they call the injustice that's been done to Breonna Taylor. Take a listen to some of the people that we talked to earlier.
But now you're looking around and you're seeing that people are starting to take notice, that it is us as black people, black men and women and children who are suffering in this country.
We have to keep doing this until we get what we want. That's the whole point. We're people and the government works for us. Like, we should be cohesive and working together, and we're going to exercise our rights to make that heard and vocalize that, right?
And again, those people are among the group of about 1,000 that started at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. They came into Manhattan. They've been in Lower Manhattan throughout the evening since 7 p.m. tonight. It's unclear exactly where they're going to go, but as Adam mentioned, his group was still marching, and the group that we were following are still marching at this hour, and we're waiting to see if they'll make their way back here toward the Manhattan Bridge and head back over into Brooklyn tonight. But as we've seen, people want their voices heard, and they're apparently willing to continue marching into the late hours of tonight to make that so. We're live in Lower Manhattan. Checky Beckford, News 4 New York.
Okay, and we will be following those marchers all night tonight. Checky, thank you very much. Our coverage of Breonna Taylor's death, today's indictment, and the nation's response to that indictment continues right now on our website, NBCNewYork.com, also on the NBC4 New York app.